Until early 2001, the international community praised Macedonia as an example of a successful multi-ethnic and multicultural society. But the killing of an Albanian farmer and 3 Macedonian soldiers in the small hamlet of Tenushevci on the Kosovo-Macedonian border caught Macedonia by surprise. Tenushevci was a smuggling haven, long forgotten by the Macedonian authorities until Skopje and Belgrade signed a border agreement in February 2001. For the first time in a decade, Macedonian security forces began to patrol the area, posing a threat to the smugglers. The killings led to the first skirmishes involving government security forces and the emerging guerrilla movement. The violence spread rapidly, first engulfing the Tetovo region, and in only a few weeks moving to Kumanovo. By midsummer, Macedonia was on the brink of a civil war. The Macedonian government had failed to address long-standing political issues, in particular demands by Albanians to improve their status. Defunct politics and institutional weakness had produced a very fragile stability. All of a sudden, a classic conflict scenario unfolded. A radical new rebel force known as the NLA that sidelined the established Albanian leadership emerged. The conflict not only showed how fragile Macedonia's democracy was, it also pointed to the inability of Macedonian politics to deal with the challenges of the new millennium, the process of building institutions and integration with the Euro-Atlantic structures. It soon became clear that neither side had enough strength to win the war. A compromise solution to prevent further misery and destruction was clearly needed. Alarmed by the prospect of another Balkan war, international mediators helped persuade the leaders from both sides to accept a compromise agreement. The Ohrid Agreement addressed Albanian concerns while guaranteeing the territorial integrity of Macedonia.
I think there were many occasions when the country could have slipped towards civil war. Indeed, there were times when we believed it was absolutely certain. I think it was after the attacks on the policemen that took place in the hills above the Tetovo Valley. And that led to a response by the ethnic Macedonians in Skopje burning Albanian shops. The potential for escalation was very considerable indeed.
Macedonia was it was a new democracy. It had not fully established its institutions or its economy. Wars had been going on in the neighborhood. It was trying to establish itself, and suddenly it was faced with an insurgency. And an insurgency is the most complicated situation that any country can face. There is no doubt in my mind that Macedonia was on the verge of a major war.
I think the interpretation is that in both sides there were people that were not very keen on having a negotiated solution. And those who were not particularly interested in having a negotiated solution tried to use those moments to try to bring the most pressure for not having a success.
There were several attempts to use force to derail the talks because I would call them extremists on one side or the other felt that they could achieve a military solution. And we never thought a military solution was an acceptable outcome, and I continue to believe that. The main alternative was a war which would have caused Macedonia to cease to exist as a country.